Hey guys, welcome back. It's David Fulcher, and my guy across from me is David Coleman. We
Hey,
are here once again for Believe in Arizona State. Now, that means believe in the opportunity for them to win football games, get themselves in a position at the end of the year to be a team that can go to a big bowl game. But we want to talk a little bit about the Arizona State Oklahoma State game, David. We knew it was going to be a tough game going into Stillwater.
we did.
And they went in there and they fought for a little bit, and then I think the win and the sale kind of disappeared. What do you think?
It did, and it didn't. We thought we were kind of hoping we'd have a different discussion today, and maybe where the rest of the season was going to go. But I still have to tell you, I still have a lot of hope for the rest of the season. We both thought they would go in there and battle their hearts out,
And they did. I mean, I look at both sides of the football. I saw some promising on both sides of the football, offensively and defensively. There was a point in that game, and I know we're getting a little bit ahead of what talking about. There was a point in this game where the X factor fumbled the football, and I think the game changed from that fumble.
As sudden change sometimes does. It did make a difference, and we didn't expect them to go in there and play error-free football. We both talked with Thurman Thomas. We talked about how tough that Oklahoma State Stadium is to play. And at night, and I have to tell you, until I watched the game, it reminded me just how tough it actually is. There's a couple stadiums in this country that those night games, you go there, you go to the shoe, you go down in Louisiana, and LSU is known for kind of their field being just insanity. I thought they played awfully well. We didn't think they would go error free. We thought they had to almost go error free to win the game, and I think we were probably right. But you're right, David. There were some phenomenal plays, which we can talk about. Some players did some wonderful things. And then as the game went on, those lines took control. The offensive and defensive line for Oklahoma State took control, and it was obvious there was some difference there.
Well, I mean, you can't be ranked, 10th or 11th in the country and not have an exceptional football team. And we knew Oklahoma State was going to be tough to play. And like Thurman said, when you're playing down there in Stillwater at night, 80 to 100,000 people, it's a big country boy party.
No,
and let me tell you something. Those boys from that West Coast, they weren't ready for that.
I told you, you made a really good point last week that Emory kind of used to, was when he was at Florida, was used to, just another day in the park to walk into the swamp or walk into Alabama or wherever they happen to be playing that week. But for some of the players on Arizona State's team, it looked like that was a pretty new environment to them.
Oh, definitely new. I don't know if any of those kids have ever played in a big stadium, packed, that loud, that kind of atmosphere. And if they didn't do that in high school, which I know they didn't, they have never done it. So Arizona State playing at home, yes, you get 75,000 in there, but it's a little bit different down there in Stillwater.
I'll say this, we saw there's a couple other crazy games this weekend, and I know that you saw it too. We were texting back and forth when Texas was playing Alabama, and Texas loses that game but moves up into the polls. One of the few teams to ever do that, to lose a game and then move into the polls. I don't think anybody watched the game Saturday. Anybody's going to watch that game doesn't think they gave it their all, doesn't think they're a talented team. I think that most people are going to say they went to Oklahoma State, they gave them a game, but in the end, Oklahoma State is at Oklahoma State, and they're you said this, you said it to Thurman, and Thurman reiterated back. Very tough to beat them there. Very tough.
And it is. I mean, very, very tough to beat them down there, but the Arizona State had an opportunity. They had their chances. They had all the tools working for them. I believe Oklahoma State's first 4 possessions were 3 and out. They punted the football away. ASU went down, scored 3 points, and then kind of muffed the ball around a little bit, slowed things down, and then gave Oklahoma State an opportunity to correct their mistakes and get back in the game. And when they got back in the game, they knew exactly what they were going to do. And
weren't their first 4, David, wasn't it punt, 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 interception?
It was punt, 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 interception. And see that for me, you have to take advantage
Sully,
of it.
Right? Sully made that interception.
Yes. You got to make those once you get that opportunity. And when Soleil made that interception, I'm thinking, hey, now we go down the field, score a touchdown, we're 10-0. Well, we gave the ball right back to them, and then all of a sudden, the wind went out of the sail for ASU.
Let me ask you this from a an All-American's perspective, from a three-time Pro Bowler's perspective, I guarantee by now you've watched that game a couple of times.
Yes.
Let's go to the positive. What stands out in your mind? If you want to pull up the stats, I know you know the stats, but what in your mind sticks out that rings true? Not only that it was positive on Saturday night, but gives you hope, gives me hope, gives all Arizona State fans hope for the rest of the season.
Well, you brought in a new quarterback from Florida. Kid's pretty good. Didn't make a whole lot of mistakes. Emory Jones finished 12 for 24. It was 223 yards, 9.3 yards per pass play, and he threw a touchdown, which is good. He didn't turn the football over. He kept the football team into the game. Winning the game comes from everybody else. He did a great job. One of the brightest spots outside of Emory Jones was the X factor.
He was the X factor.
Let me tell you something, man. 21 carries, 118 yards, 5.6 yards a carry, and a touchdown. And his longest run was 42 yards. Yeah. He had a couple of runs, Dave, that when you look at him, you look back at the old Arizona State players that played back in the day. My tailback, Daryl Clack, used to run the football just like this guy. Very, very powerful, strong running. So, the positives for this football team is showing early on the offensive side of the football. So there were a lot of good things in this game outside of the bad stuff that happened later on.
On one of the versions of the replays, David, that I was watching the last couple of days, the announcers weren't familiar with the X factor, and he broke that long run down the sidelines, and one of them went, "Whoa, who's this guy?" I mean,
yes,
this guy's good. It was as if it was a coming out party for him a little bit, for some people who didn't know him. And I'll tell you who else I thought, if you can have a coming out party in a loss, Elijah Badger.
Oh yes,
I believe a lot more people know his name today than knew it before game time on Saturday.
I mean, think of 6 catches, 91 yards, 15 yards a catch, touchdown, long of 28 yards. They didn't throw the football really, really deep. But then when they had an opportunity to do that, but let me tell you something, Badger, we're not talking Wisconsin Badger, we're talking Arizona State's Badger. He, once again,
Wisconsin probably could have used him over the weekend. Wisconsin wish they had that.
Oh, I know. Let Washington State beat him up. But here's the thing, though. Arizona State is actually playing some pretty good football. The ball is being passed around. Offensively, everybody that has a big name on that offensive football team, wide receiver, running back, tight end, quarterback, they're all touching the football, and they're making plays. Just didn't make enough plays against that Oklahoma State football team.
David, you're right. They put up 223 yards through the air. They put up 131 on the ground. All right. You're looking at almost 400 against a very good number 11 at the time. I haven't looked yet to see where they're at this week. I'm sure they've either gained a little ground or
I think they're number 9. I think they went up 2 spots.
I figured they'd move into the top 10 with what happened over the weekend. But you're talking about putting up 400 yards, because remember this, Oklahoma State had the ball some time too. We watched those highlights as well. And Spencer Sanders, the one announcer, feels like he's been there for a decade. He just runs that team like he's a coach on the field, and that's tough to go against. So there was the amount of time that they had the ball. So to still put up 400 yards in that ball game, I believe bodes well. I wouldn't want to beat Eastern Michigan this week, and I'm not sure. I think that they are going to give Utah Utes everything they have.
Oh, no doubt whatsoever. And you talking about time of possession, 30 minutes for Arizona State, 29 minutes for Oklahoma State. So it was an even ball game with time of possession. One of the things that I thought that was really critical was third down. Third down for Arizona State, they were 2 for 13. 2 for 13. You can't win that. Oklahoma State gets 30 first downs in the game. ASU gets 12. When you look at those numbers, you're thinking big blowout. And it was a close football game. But when you don't convert on third down, like ASU didn't, you're gonna struggle. But they had time of possession right there in their own backyard, doing the things they were doing, just couldn't convert on third down.
And let's give credit where credit's due. Sanders is no joke. 268. He threw 2 TDs and the wonderful interception that we saw there. Wonderful diving interception. And then Richardson put up some big numbers, 27 for 131, averaged basically 5 yards carry, 19. There was a different level of confidence, those people. And then you had your wide receivers, Green and Johnson, Richardson putting up some pretty big numbers. What I wanted to ask you, and I think we even texted about this, or maybe we talked about it in the last couple of days. The first game obviously was a lesser opponent, but there were some awfully easy, and I want to say either 2 or 3 here, David, you can correct me, basically almost walk-in touchdowns for Oklahoma State. You know what I'm talking